For decades, we've been told to follow a certain set of rules for learning. But what if those rules are just completely wrong? What if the very habits we think are helping us are actually the things holding us back? Okay, let's really dive into this because today we are tearing up that old playbook and building a brand new one based on some incredible modern research. And we're going to kick things off with something that might sound a little controversial. I like to call it the great teacher paradox. And trust me, it challenges a belief that most of us hold as an absolute truth. So let me just ask you this. What if that amazing professor, the one who made everything seem so simple and crystal clear, was actually setting you up for failure down the road? There was this fascinating study done with Air Force Academy students that asked this exact question. And, well, the results are pretty shocking.
Just look at this. It's a complete reversal. The students who had those great, highly rated professors, yeah, they crushed the intro course. But when they got to advanced calculus, they totally tanked. Meanwhile, the students who had to really wrestle with the material under those less clear, lower-rated professors, they were the ones who soared in the advanced classes. It turns out that initial struggle wasn't a bug. It was the entire feature.
And this paradox, it really just reveals a much, much bigger problem. You see, most of us have fallen into a trap, following these ancient learning rules without ever questioning them. And I'm not exaggerating here. Relying on strategies like rereading your notes or just trying really hard to understand is basically the modern equivalent of a doctor from the 1800s prescribing cocaine to keep you alert. Seriously, we know so much more now, yet so many of us still cling to these totally outdated, ineffective methods. And the core reason these old methods fail, it all comes down to this one distinction. Most popular strategies, like rote memorization, or even just reading with the intent to understand, are forms of what scientists call shallow processing. They create these weak, brittle memories that you forget almost immediately. Our goal needs to be deep processing, where you're actively creating meaning and connecting ideas. That's what builds durable, usable knowledge and leads to true understanding. So if trying super hard to understand doesn't really work, what does? This brings us to a wonderfully counterintuitive secret about how our brains actually learn. You see, it's not about more effort. It's about a completely different kind of effort. So let me tell you about this simple but honestly brilliant experiment. Researchers gave people a list of words. Group 1 was told, memorize these words, do whatever it takes. But Group 2, they got a totally different instruction. Just rate how pleasant each word feels to you. That's it. No mention of memorizing a single thing. And this just illustrates the point perfectly. The group that was just rating pleasantness remembered the words just as well and in some cases even better than the group that was actively trying to memorize them. So why? Because rating a word's pleasantness forces you to evaluate it, to connect it to your own experiences and feelings. It actually triggers deep processing completely by accident. So here's the crucial point. Real learning isn't a product of your intent to learn. It's a byproduct of the right kind of thinking. Okay, so we've basically just torn down all the old, ineffective rules. Now what? Well, now we build something better. Let's assemble a simple, actionable framework that puts all of this modern research right into practice. This is it, the modern learning protocol. It's a 3-step system, and it's designed specifically to force that deep processing we were just talking about. We're going to move through strategic variation, then friction-based thinking, and we'll finish up with pattern recognition. Okay, so let's break this down. First up, strategic variation. This isn't about the whole 10,000 hours of mindless repetition. It's about practicing a skill from as many different angles as you can. Second, friction-based thinking. This is all about embracing the slowdown, using methods that force our brains to work just a little bit harder. And finally, pattern recognition. This is where we stop being passive consumers of information and we become active code breakers, always searching for the underlying structure in everything we learn. This quote, it perfectly captures the whole idea of friction-based thinking. You've probably heard that writing by hand is better than typing. But you know what? It's not because of some magic in the physical act of writing. It's because writing by hand is slow. You literally can't keep up with a speaker, so you are forced to listen, synthesize, and summarize on the fly. You're not just recording information. The friction of that pen forces you to think about it way more deeply. So what does this all really mean for you? It means we have to stop thinking about learning as some kind of innate talent you either have or you don't. It's a system. And the good news is, you can build a better one. Honestly, this is the most hopeful message from all of the research out there. Being a fast learner has very, very little to do with natural ability. It is all about the speed and the quality of your feedback loop. And that is something you have almost complete control over. I mean, think about how experts develop that incredible, almost psychic intuition. The research shows it requires two key things. First, a high validity environment, a place where the rules are stable and patterns repeat. Think about chess or firefighting. Second, and this is the important one for us, is the opportunity to learn through immediate and accurate feedback. Now, we can't always change our environment, but we can almost always shorten our feedback cycle. And this is where it gets really, really powerful. If you go from reflecting on what you're learning, say once a week or once a month, to reflecting on it just once a day, you can effectively 10 times your rate of learning. That is not an exaggeration. That is the incredible power of shrinking your feedback loop. So, I'll just leave you with this. Instead of asking, how can I practice more or how can I find a better teacher, ask yourself a different question. Look at whatever it is you're trying to learn, whether it's a new skill at work or a personal passion, and just figure this out. What is one feedback loop you can shorten starting today?